point, a part of me says I should do this in lesser time. AI for good, innovations in policy making for social justice. Now, I'm taking this exactly from the point where we left off on the panel, right? In particular, I'm taking it from Mr. Okpe Olugasa's contribution in terms of what innovations should we be looking forward to see in the justice space, in the legal tech space. And I particularly pigeonhole my talk on innovations in policy making. And policy making because I believe so strongly that the foundation to most things is policy. Many of the problems that we have highlighted here this afternoon, many of the solutions that we are working towards, at the heart of this is policy. Now, policy could sound like a big word, but when you break down policy, it's really just a way of doing things, a set of rules, a way of thinking, processes that ought to be in place to achieve specific goals. So in this case, we've been talking about issues in the justice sector. We've been talking about barriers. So this topic is really about how do we fundamentally solve for these problems. And the focal technology that I intend to use as my case study is artificial intelligence, not because it's the buzzword or the hype of the moment, but because it's a mature technology that, if properly deployed, can solve many of the problems that we have so eloquently spoken about here this afternoon. Now, data. Now, forgive that I did not come with slides. It was deliberate because I didn't want this to be like a presentation. I just wanted to talk, all right? If you had a takeaway from the last panel, particularly Mr. Okpe's contribution, it was this salient point that data is the lifeblood of practically everything. And so I want to say that data is the lifeblood of effective policy making. Data is the lifeblood of effective policy making. Now, if you don't take out any other thing I would say here this afternoon, remember that point, that data is the lifeblood of effective policy making. But let me now dial back. The topic is AI for good. Innovations in policymaking and social justice. So there are two words that I want to juxtapose, AI and then social justice. Then I will come back to the policy making. We all know, and I would not attempt to make academic definitions, that artificial intelligence is pretty much intelligent systems, computer systems that are out, they have only one purpose in life, to simulate what the human can do cognitively. Let me say that in a better way. Humans cognitively can learn, can think, can read, can make decisions. These are cognitive functions of the human, you and I. Now, where systems begin to simulate those functions, where a system begins to imitate that ability to read, to learn, to take decisions, then we are in the realm of artificial intelligence. Now, if systems can do this, let's unpack it further. And I'm tying it to the statement I made early on, that data is the lifeblood of effective policy making. It then means that what are these systems learning on? What are these systems training on? It's on data. And what's data? Data is practically everything, right? It could be structured, it could be unstructured. And I will unpack the structured part. The structured part is what we've been doing in the realm of computing all since 1950s, thereabout. The unstructured part is what natural language processing is now helping us do. And I'll unpack all of this. But what I'm saying is, if an AI system can read, can learn, can make decisions, what then is policy? Policy is exactly those things I have just said, right? That you are able to read, that you're able to learn, and you're able to take decisions. So, if you then have systems that can do these cognitive functions, it then means that you have technology that can assist in policy making. Yeah? Great. Now, I then said this data is structured and unstructured. Now, think about any problem. And again, because I want this to be real, I'm referring again to Mr. Okpe's submissions, right? When he said many of the atrocities that has been committed, do we have data? Do we know? Do we have insight as to the number of bandit attack? Do we have insight as to the number of the amount of crop failure? Do we have insight as to the actual number of detainees awaiting trial? And just think about anything that is a problem. You would eventually come down to the realization that at the heart of that problem is a lack of data and insights derived from that data to then be able to adequately solve the problem. And whether it's an access to justice problem or it's any other kind of problem. So, enter artificial intelligence. Like all of us know, the existing AI systems have pretty much done mind-blowing things. Think about your Uber. Think about your Airbnb. Think about all of these applications that we all have found very helpful and very useful. It really comes down to one thing: analyzing data, large amounts of data, and then drawing insights, which is recognizing patterns from this data, and then using that insight to solve a problem. Whether the problem is your Netflix recommendation engine, whether the problem is what's the next thing to buy, haven't bought X, Y, or Z. Now, if AI has done all of that in the past, AI can then do the core, which is the problem, which is analyze insights, analyze data and draw insights so that we can effectively solve problems. That is innovation. Now, social justice is the second leg of my talk. We've said justice is many things, but social justice in itself is the fair and equitable distribution of opportunities in society. So you can think about it in every realm and in many realms. The real fundamental issues that we face as a society, to a large degree, is lack of opportunities. And in other degrees, it is mismanagement of opportunities. Or it is creating solutions that do not solve particular problems. Now, it could rear its head in education, in healthcare, and in the justice sector. So, think about IoTs, Internet of Things. This is a technology that essentially harnesses the power of sensors and the cloud, right, and algorithms, AI, to solve problems. Now, it could solve the problem in agriculture. It could solve it in security. It could solve it in any domain in society. But it's basically this: having sensors that can take data, having a model that can analyze the data, and then being able to draw insights so that decisions can be made. So for instance, if there's traffic bottleneck between here and Ikorodu Road, and maybe there is a traffic light someplace, what a sensor does is the sensor would begin to take data of the amount of cars coming from direction A or B or C. Then analyze. It looks like between 12 noon and 2 p.m., more cars come from point A to point B. And between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m., more cars come from point B to point A. Right? Now, that's a sensor. And when I say sensor, pretty much that's those cameras you see. Right? So it's not just tracking for traffic violation, it's actually tracking the number of cars. Now, imagine if the traffic light is then programmed based on that insight, that between 12 noon and 2 p.m., we have huge traffic coming from A to B, right? And between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m., we have huge traffic coming from B to A. What does that mean for the policymaker? It's an easy decision, right? The policymaker is a person who is behind the technologist who would program the traffic light. The policymaker then says, you know what? Between 12 and 2, ensure that you have the green, right? Being more available to traffic coming from this area, and between 4 and 6, ensure that you have the green being more available. Do you know what that does immediately? It solves a traffic problem. What was at the heart of it? Data. And what did that data do? It was being processed, right? And then insight was derived, and then the policymaker can make informed decision. That's all I came here to say. Now, you can apply that to any problem. Any problem. Just think about any problem, right? Gather data, analyze data, and make informed policies based on that data. Frankly, that's at the heart of much of the things that cause high blood pressure in Nigeria today. So my parting words to the technologists in the room, all right? You know the technology, and you are out to solve the problems. And in fact, you know that we have advanced technologies that can solve these problems, all right? My word to you is collaboration, which is, while you know what this technology can do, begin to demonstrate with little pilot cases to say, all right, let me begin to gather data in a particular silo. All right. And then let me begin to use these models to analyze this data. And then let me share this information using technology still, or a dashboard, could go on social media and say, you know what, for X problem, right, this is the data I gathered. This is the analysis of the data. And for policymakers, now you don't have any contact with legislature or anybody in government, right? All you have is your social media platform, right? Continue to do that for 3 months and see what will happen. I bet you'll get a call from a high office. And so for the folks who think that you can't make changes from the ground up, right? I just told you how to make change from the ground up, right? Now, so AI has that transformative potential. It's not just a buzzword. It's not just a buzzword. And let me say this. Your ChatGPT, I know that you use it for summarizations, you use it to like Google and all. Use it for the purpose I just described now. Think about any problem. All right? Think about any problem. And then, now there are scientific methods of gathering data, but just do your manual gathering. All right? Feed it into, I use ChatGPT because that's the closest example of an AI model that most people have. Feed it into the model and then ask it any question. All right? Ask it any question like, based on this data that I've given, what do you think should be the solution to X and Y problem? And see the response. You are already on your way to solving a problem. So breaking it down, that is using AI for good, right? And essentially policy innovation, taking the strengths of AI. It can think, it can write, it can make decisions, and then you are on your way to making change greater and better than you ever thought was possible. Thank you very much.